Welcome to podcast number 2 of Wicked Good English. And today we have Sam. Sam is from English Fiesta. Hi, Sam. How are you doing?
I'm doing really good, thank you. Very excited to be here on Wicked Good English for the first time.
Well, thank you for coming. I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to hear a little bit of your story. So, Sam, can you tell us where are you from and where do you currently live?
So, I'm from a small town just outside of London. It's about 45 minutes on the underground away from the centre. And right now, I'm currently living in Buenos Aires, Argentina.
Very nice. And what made you decide to move to Argentina?
Oh, big question. Um, like anything with sort of a decision this big, there's lots of factors that, of course, went into it. I went through a lot of personal changes in my life, but more importantly, it's always been my dream to live abroad. I was already a fluent Spanish speaker, so I thought it'd be great to go somewhere that speaks Spanish, where I could really improve my abilities, get a lot more comfortable speaking Spanish every day. And yeah, I'd traveled to Argentina before, so I thought it'd be sort of perfect opportunity to come back to a place that I really love.
How did you learn Spanish before you went there? Did you learn in school, or what was your process of becoming fluent?
No, I didn't learn in school, funnily enough. In England, we tend to learn French at school. So I did 5 years of French at school and I do not speak a single word of it. I think the only phrase I remember is about going to the cinema, which of course isn't very useful. Despite this and these sort of negative experiences that I had with learning a language at school, it was always something that really interested me. I always thought that one day I'd love to become a polyglot and I'd love to speak multiple languages, at least 4. So I tried several different times to learn Spanish, a couple attempts at German, and every single time I failed. And one day I had a look at myself and I thought, right, what is the reason that I'm failing? Why am I not successful at this? I thought, is it because I'm not capable of learning a language? Am I not intelligent enough? And I realized that I highly doubt that that is the case. So I realized that actually the issue is that I just don't know how. My strategy before was like lots of people. I used Duolingo, I used to go through a textbook, and I got bored really quickly and I didn't see any progress in either of these languages. So I started studying the theory behind learning a language. I found Stephen Krashen and his ideas on language acquisition and applied that to my sort of language learning with Spanish. As a result, I stumbled upon Dreaming Spanish, which I truly believe is the best language learning resource in the world. And yeah, just listening a lot, in all honesty. It took me about 2.5 years of listening for an hour every day to reach C1 level in Spanish. So yeah, a lot of listening, but most importantly, a lot of consistency.
Very nice. I'm also familiar with Dreaming Spanish. I'm in the process of using that style of learning for Spanish. So I use platforms like Dreaming Spanish or just a lot of different YouTube channels, basically, that offer Spanish at, now for me, it's intermediate level. And I have a question. At what point did you start talking in Spanish and feeling comfortable with talking in Spanish?
Oh, it's a good question. So I did what's called the silent period at the start. And it's something I recommend to anyone starting off in a new language. The beginner stage, I didn't really talk at all. until I started to feel like maybe I'd just entered B1. About 4 months. At the start, I had lots of motivation, and some days I was doing multiple hours of study. So I advanced through beginner and A1, A2 really, really quickly. So yeah, I first spoke around 4 months in, but I wouldn't say I got comfortable speaking till around 6 or 8 months in. Around 300 hours, I think.
Did you ever take a language test to test your level, like the B1 test, the B2 test, or did you just kind of through what you're capable of know what your level was?
Yeah, I didn't take a test. In all honesty, unless you need a test to get into a school or to show a business something, I actually recommend against taking tests. It's a lot of unnecessary stress, and for me, language learning is about fun. I want to enjoy the process of learning a language, and having a test or a deadline sort of looming over me really isn't what my idea of fun. I'm usually quite good at tests, but I don't have any motivation to do it. How I sort of figured out my level was a little bit of what you said, that sort of feeling of improving, looking at, oh, what can a B1 student do? The other thing I did is I watched on YouTube different examples of people at B1 level. And that's when I was able to say, oh, I can sort of do this. I'm kind of at this level. Um, with a lot of things in language learning, it's very much up to how you feel, especially at this lower level. Some days you can feel really confident, the language feels really smooth, and the next day you can't form a single sentence. So it varied a lot at that early stage.
It's really strange when that happens. That happens to me with Spanish, because I'm now starting to try to speak it more and more. And some days you feel like you can have a full conversation, and then some days I'm like, I don't know any Spanish. Where did it all go? It's weird.
I wish I could tell you it gets better when you get up to the advanced levels, but it doesn't. Um, I find, obviously, living here in a Spanish speaking country, I've gotten so much more comfortable speaking Spanish. But in a second language, there's so many factors that sort of go into your output. A big thing for me is tiredness. If you speak to me in Spanish in the middle of the day, my Spanish is really good. Try and speak to me at 1 a.m. and yeah, you're not going to get very much logic out of me, unfortunately.
I've heard some people say that they actually learned by going to bars and speaking with people who speak this language. Has that ever helped you, or has it, I don't know if you drink, but have you ever tried that, going to a bar, kind of like having a couple beers, letting loose? And does it help you with your Spanish, or does it make it worse?
So, I do drink. I'm English, of course. Here in the city, they have events called Mundo Lingo, which is a language exchange event. You go to a bar with lots of like minded people and you sort of talk in a variety of different languages. Um, I've gone to quite a few, and a few drinks definitely helps the confidence. I'm not sure if it helps your actual ability to speak the language. You probably make the same, if not more, mistakes while speaking, but they're less important to you. And a large part of communicating in a foreign language is just being able to get your point across. You can sort of worry about mistakes when you get into the later levels. At first, it's really just about being comfortable communicating with other people. So, yes, going to bars, talking to people, definitely helpful.
What would you say is your type of accent? Like, do you speak Spanish with a Argentinian accent? Because I know that there's very different pronunciations depending on which type of Spanish you're speaking.
Yeah, this is a fantastic question. So, I originally started learning Spanish from Spain. Being from England and having an ex girlfriend live in Iberia, I picked up the sort of Spain Spanish accent. So, with a few of the sounds, they do sound a little bit Spanish still, such as the C or the Z in Spanish. Um, but after living here for so long, I definitely picked up some of the more porteño pronunciation, especially with the Y and the double L, with the sh. What I found is it depends a little bit on who I'm speaking to. So if I'm with lots of Argentines, my accent mirrors theirs a little bit more. But if I'm with more foreigners, like my Venezuelan friends or Peruvian friends, my accent mirrors theirs a little bit more. Very interesting. An interesting note is people always ask me if I'm French here. It's very rare that people ask me, are you English? I always get asked if I'm French as a result of my pronunciation in the language.
Interesting. I wonder if it's because you learned French for so many years. So if that is in your brain and kind of came out a little bit in your Spanish.
Yeah, I think it's more English speakers are definitely not known for learning other languages, especially not to quite a high level. And I am quite proud of my pronunciation, especially in Spanish, and the sort of flow of my Spanish when I get speaking. Um, Lots of that has come from listening to a lot of music in Spanish. And I think that's more where it comes from. I've been asked if I'm Italian a few times as well. So I think it's a case of people recognize that, oh, he's not a native Spanish speaker. Maybe I make a few mistakes or don't pronounce things quite perfectly. But because I have quite a high level in the language and a high level in my pronunciation, people assume that I speak another Romance language, which I do not.
Well, good for you. I'm jealous. I'm jealous that you're at this level. When you arrived to Argentina, was it ever difficult? I'm sure it was, but was it difficult when they started speaking everyday Argentinian Spanish with the slang, with stuff that maybe isn't as common like you would hear on Dreaming Spanish, but more like street talk kind of stuff?
Absolutely. This is something that was the biggest challenge when I got here. Um, so, the first month I was here in Argentina, I lived in an Airbnb. So, I didn't have any roommates. I would only sort of speak Spanish when I went out, saw my friends, etc. But afterwards, I moved into a house with 11 other people. All of them were Spanish speakers from various countries around Latin America. So I got a lot of exposure to different Spanish accents and to different slang. Argentine slang is very particular, very unique, I'll say, and they use a lot of words that, like you said perfectly, you're not going to come across through studying the language sort of traditionally or in any normal way. You only really get it from being here. What I find as well is men, especially around my age, can be really difficult to understand, even now after being here for so long, because they don't really open their mouths when they speak. They speak with a mouth like really closed, it's quite quiet. Yeah, so I can still struggle a little bit, especially in group conversations with 3 or 4 of my male friends. It can be quite difficult.
I find sometimes even in English, I hear stuff maybe with like younger generations, and I'm like, what are you talking about? So I can imagine moving there. That would be a difficult part of adjusting. Just in general, what do you like about living in Argentina?
Oh, so much, honestly. It's a fantastic country to live in. They have a very good sort of way of thinking towards things, I feel. People really try and enjoy themselves here. There's not such a hyper fixation, a big focus on work. I find that in Western Europe, in the UK, Germany, France, the Netherlands, these sort of countries, all anyone speaks about is work, all anyone thinks about is work. It can become very draining in all honesty. The weather is much nicer here as well. Summer is really beautiful. We have temperatures of 32, 33 degrees all summer, which is just lovely. It can get a bit extreme sometimes, which as an English person, I do struggle with. For me, a big part of living here is independence. I love my family, of course, but in England, I couldn't live alone. It would be far too expensive to rent a property or to even rent a room. And that's not considering transport costs, food, seeing friends, all of the things that go into living. Here, with my salary, I can do that. I can live what I think is quite a comfortable life. I obviously have the budget. I have to do all of the adult things, of course. But yeah, a big part of living here is independence and being able to push myself every day. Like I said at the start, one of my dreams for all of my life has been to live in a different country and live in a few different countries. And yeah, I'm really living my dream at the moment, which is quite a special thing.
That's awesome. I'm happy for you. Do you like the food in Argentina?
Oh, now this is a fantastic question. So, as I mentioned the earlier, I believe, I came here as a tourist about a year ago. And as a tourist, I loved the food here. It was incredible. But as a tourist, I was going to restaurants every single day. Now, living here, you obviously get a very different sort of experience when it comes to food. Unfortunately, I can't go to restaurants every day as much as I would love to. In general, the food here is good. Sort of when you buy raw food products and you cook, the food tends to be quite good, if not a little bit expensive. But what I found, which is really heartbreaking for me, is that they don't have many snacks, and the sort of options when it comes to snacks are very limited. I'm not someone who loves eating big meals. I'm someone who likes eating a little bit throughout the day. So when I first got here in Argentina, I lost a lot of weight because I was searching for snacks and I really couldn't find any. So like any place, positives and negatives when it comes to the food. I'll say overall positive. A lot more flavour than we have in England, and the quality of meat here is definitely a lot higher.
What is your favorite food in Argentina?
Ooh, that is a really good question. So, I have two, I'll say. One is choripan, which is quite simple. It's Argentine sausage cut in half on bread, usually toasted bread, with chimichurri sauce on top, which is a sort of sauce with vinegar and some other sort of herbs and spices. I also love empanadas as either a snack or as a lunchtime meal. I think they're really perfect and you can buy them for really cheap. They cost less than $1 if you go to a sort of kiosk or a little shop of empanadas.
Do you like the media luna? I've heard, I think that's what it's called, right? It's like a croissant.
Yes, media lunas.
I've heard people from Argentina say that they're better than French croissants. They're like when you compare different croissants throughout the world, that Argentinian media lunas are the best by far. But I don't know. I've never tried one.
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying, obviously, being from England, I've managed to travel to France a few times, and French croissants are amazing. What I'll say is, whilst they look similar, the media luna and the croissant are two very different foods. They're both pastries, but a media luna is far sweeter. They usually glaze the top of it with honey or maybe some sort of jam occasionally, something very sugary. The pastry is maybe a little bit thicker than a croissant as well, and they tend to be much smaller. So very different experiences. They look exactly the same, but they're definitely not the same type of food.
Okay. Well, I hope I can try one day and then
That
I'll be the
that was
final
my
judge.
sitting on the fence answer. I don't want to get the Argentines angry at me.
What do you miss about home? What are you nostalgic about since you have left where you were born?
Yeah, so I've been away for 6 months now. So this is by far the longest time I've spent away from home. Of course, the obvious is I miss my family. I miss my little dog, Molly, as well. Uh, she's so fat and I miss her so much. Um, I don't know. Outside of the people, it is my home, England, and there's a lot of good things about it, but also a lot of bad things about it. And outside of the people, I can't lie and say I'm missing too much about England itself. Yeah, maybe the nature, but I think that's more as a result of now I'm living right in the middle of a city. Whereas back home in England, I lived close to some parks, some big sort of country parks, which were really nice to sort of go for a little walk, clear your head, get some fresh air. Yeah, and Nando's, of course, can't forget. I am missing Nando's, the most important. For those of you who don't know, Nando's is a chicken restaurant in England, and it tastes fantastic.
I have never heard of Nando's.
It's our national treasure. Yeah, it's the best thing about being English, in all honesty, is a Nando's.
Next time I travel to England, I'll be sure to try Nando's. Do you have any plans to, because I know Argentina has some beautiful nature spots to visit. Do you have plans to visit Patagonia or something like that?
Yeah, so I went to Patagonia last year. I would love to go back, but unfortunately, it's really expensive, almost prohibitively expensive. In that, the thing you need to understand about Argentina is this country is massive. Like, it's really difficult to travel around, and there's not the best infrastructure in the world. If I wanted to go to Patagonia from Buenos Aires, I would need to take a flight. And flights are not cheap, unfortunately. I have been considering going back to one of my favorite cities here, Mendoza, sort of more towards the northwest of the country. It's still in the Andes, so I'd still get lots of beautiful mountain views, but it's something I have to consider and maybe save up for a little bit. Buenos Aires is definitely not a cheap city by any means.
I heard it's getting more and more expensive too. Like the food, the cost of food when you go out to eat, over the last, I don't know how many years, but over the last few years has gotten more and more expensive, where it's becoming almost similar to food prices in America, in the United States.
I definitely not quite as bad as America or like the UK. Food is much more expensive in the UK still. But in comparison to the average salaries of people, food is ridiculous here. I'm not sure how lots of people are affording it at times. You have to be very smart with how you spend your money. What I find as well is there are certain food products that end up being really expensive. For example, a bag of frozen chicken nuggets I saw a few weeks ago for something like $16, which is crazy. About 450 grams of them, so maybe 2 portions, 3 portions worth. During Easter, I saw a small Easter egg, a Kinder Easter egg, going for about $20 to $22. And it was literally about this big. So, yeah, certain things, especially things that have been imported from abroad, are really, really expensive.
We actually don't have too much time because I have the free version of Zoom that I'm using to record this. So we have a few minutes. So I wanted you to have time to be able to talk about your channel a little bit, maybe, if you want, where people can find you and anything you want to say.
Well, first off, I want to say a big thank you to Hannah for having me here on the channel. I really love the videos you're making and I share them with my students all the time. If you'd like to find me here on YouTube, you can find me at English Fiesta. I'm one of the members there on the channel. I'm sure Hannah will leave the link inside. And if you're interested in taking some English lessons with yours truly, you can find me on Preply. Just search in my name, Samuel, put in English, native English speaker, and I'm sure you'll find me on there. Once again, big thank you to Hannah for having me here on the channel.
Thank you, Sam. I'll be sure to leave links to both English Fiesta and your Preply account.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. And I enjoyed it as always. I hope you have a nice day.
You too, Hannah. We'll definitely see each other soon for some more videos.
Yes, we will. Bye.